Welcome, gamers. Welcome to a seminar on peaking angles and crosshair placements. To give a small introduction on myself, I am Boulder and I play for the team Joyous Whimsy in the champion level division. Uh, I have played in prior servers that shall not be named for 3 seasons, 2 of being in champion level division as well. And I love to practice the foundational aspects of aiming and crosshair placements in my free time. And if you have me added, you'll probably see me in the range and in death matches a lot, practicing these very things as a way to counteract my boomer reflexes. What I'm going to cover today is peeking angles and crosshair placements. And while there is no official correct way to play the game, there is a proper way to peek angles and hold crosshairs that will help make dinking the enemy with a phantom much easier. Um, Having good crosshair placements and knowing how to peek properly are part of the foundations for any FPS game. And not only will these skills help you in Valorant, but they should help you in any other first-person shooter. Now let's get started. What is peeking angles? So, peeking angles is when you're at an angle and to gain information or go for a kill of an opposing player, you move yourself in or out of the line of sight. And what good peeking will do will either net you info or give you the most advantageous position slash timing to kill the other player, depending on how you peek. Long angles versus short angles. So essentially, to peek or hold angles safely, you want to peek from an angle as far as you can or safely able to. And because of geometry, what this means is that when you clear angles from farther away, you'll be able to see the players sooner than if you clear an angle close. This is a general guideline though, and clearing angles close still has its benefits, such as sneaking up on a player that you know is there. You can use a close angle to hide your position until you're right on them. But generally, though, you would want to clear angles from a long position so that you can see them first. The first type of peak I like to go over is the jiggle peak. The jiggle peak is probably the most common type of peak you should be using when clearing unknown angles. This type of peak will give you the most reliable amount of kills and info and less deaths. Jiggle peeking is when you're at a corner and you position yourself at an angle you want to clear, and you're pressing A or D, which moves you from side to side, in and out of that corner, creating a jiggle effect. The pros for finding this information on potential enemies is clearing angles, baiting gunfire to throw off enemies' aim, and it's a great way for isolating 1v1s in clutch situations and great for clearing corners on attack side. The cons for this is that it's hard to get a kill with jiggle peeking, since there is only a small window where you can fire between jiggle peaks for you to be accurate. Our next type of peak is the wide peak, or the yeet peak, or the Ferrari swing, as the young people call it. This type of swing is a no holds balls to the wall swing, where you swing farther away than a standard peak. This type of peak is definitely situational and not the type of peak I would use for clearing basic corners or angles. But wide peeking definitely has its place though, and can be used to throw off an enemy if they are anticipating a standard peak or a jiggle peak. Also, wide peeking with a teammate on synchronized timing can almost guarantee a kill. Synchronized timing meaning like 3, 2, 1 swing type of timing. The cons for this though is that this is the most vulnerable of all the swings, and because you expose yourself the most for the longest, you're essentially committing yourself to a gunfight here. It's a do or die type swing and should be used very situationally, and is great for throwing off op shots too. A tip for wide swings is that when you swing that wide, you're very inaccurate. And to counteract that, you can crouch after a wide swing, and it'll negate the inaccuracy for an accuracy bonus. The jump peak. So my favorite type of peak, and something I use a lot. The pros for the jump peak is immense, and probably the safest way to gain info in my opinion. And in lower elos, it's very hard to get picked from if done properly. Uh, I use this a lot to find info on enemy positions, because while jiggle peaks are a good way of clearing angles and gaining info, jiggle peaks can still be pre-aimed. Jump peaks are much harder to predict and expose less of yourself than jiggle peaks do. The cons for jump peaks though are that you can't exactly kill someone on a jump peak, and if you do, it's pretty much the Valorant gods blessing you. And I wouldn't rely on that to get kills personally, unless you have a shotty or something, which can be done pretty reliably. Um, Jump peaks also make noise too, and if you do it constantly and obviously, an enemy can know where your position is based on the noise you make, and they can use that to counterplay you or dump info or dump util on you. So while jump peaks are harder to get killed from, don't do them too predictably because they can also be pre-aimed as well. Um, Here's an instruction video of how to jump peak. It's kind of hard to explain through words, so I'm showing this video, but you want to have your crosshair around a 45 degrees from the angle you want to peek from, and you want to hold W and jump towards the angle you want to peek. And right when you see the angle that you're trying to get info from, you want to strafe and go backwards into the position, and this video should explain that. Um, So hopefully that explains that. I use the jump peak a lot, especially on long angles, because at a distance they can't hear your noise. They can only see visuals. So at a distance for like long angles and stuff, you're safe from them hearing you, and it's probably the safest way to gain info. Predicting enemy peaks. After a few rounds, you might have a feel for how an enemy will play. You want to use this intuition and knowledge to help place your crosshair in predicting the enemy's peak. The standard peak, this is the default angle that you should hold if you don't have a read on the enemy's playstyle. It's the easiest to micro adjust for, and most people will generally peak this way. The jiggle peak. For the jiggle peak, you want to hold at a closer angle. My personal advice for jiggle peaks is to try not to challenge a jiggle unless you have an op or a shoddy aimed right on them. Jiggle peaks are used a lot of the times to bait out the first shot and will generally be followed by a standard or wide swing after you shoot. You can reverse psychology people with this and pretend to play into their game by shooting for the jiggle and positioning your crosshair immediately right after in anticipation for the standard or wide swing. The wide swing is enemy swings farther out than a standard peak. Um, Enemies will use this peak to throw off your aim, or if you're holding on an angle, or if they're an overly aggressive player that likes to hold W, which I'm sure we know a few of those. If you hear a lot of running or running in general coming your way, get your crosshair ready for a wide swing and have it in position, and that will probably net you an easy kill from there. B1 with the enemy. What I mean by B1 with the enemy is think how the enemy thinks. If you notice they have an overly aggressive style of play and just like to hold W, have your crosshair set and ready for a wide swing in anticipation. Nothing tells an aggressive player more than dying right when they swing. And on the other side of things, if you know an enemy likes to jiggle peek angles, use that to your advantage as well. Set yourself up for an off angle, and once they think a common angle is clear after they jiggle, they'll walk right into you. People have habits and patterns that they use throughout the game that you can pick up on. Use those habits and your own intuition to your advantage here, and set yourself up in a way that you have the best odds of winning that fight. Try to never engage in a 50-50 chance duel because it only takes one bullet to bring you down, and anyone is capable of that. Peeking against oppers. A standard peek into a held position with an op is almost a guaranteed death unless your aim is crazy. Oppers, myself included, like to hold angles set for the standard peek because enemies usually just walk into our sights, and it's not hard for us to adjust for other types of peeks off a standard peek hold. To bait out an op shot and counter an op hold, combine the types of peeks to throw off their aim. If you have an opper that is holding an angle on you, do something like a jiggle peek, which will sometimes make the opper reflexively fire his shot. The enemy will hold a closer angle in anticipation for the jiggle. Hit him with the wide swing right after the jiggle, and you'll have a 1 or 2 second window where you'll have an open shot on the opper. Because I'm an op crutch myself, I have a general feel of how other oppers behave, And the jiggle wide combo is a great tool to combat and operate if it's a 1v1 situation. You can also combine with other combos like a jiggle crouch or various other types of peaks, but the best thing to do is to not just walk into a standard peak into an op. Um, if you have two or more peeps with you, you can combo the types of peaks, have one person swing wide while you swing like with a crouch peak, and this will greatly increase the chance of of a trade while y'all both swing. Uh, Peeking against shotgun users. Yeah, don't peek into a shotgun. Um, Even if you pre-aim and position them correctly, the shotgun still has the advantage here, and that they only need to press the left left mouse click to saw you in half. If you absolutely have to take a fight with the person holding a shotgun, then make sure you have your crosshair aimed at head level and go for the head. Your window here to kill a person holding a shotgun is extremely small, and whiffing can usually mean you're missing a torso. You want to peek with the longest angle you can here so that you'll be able to see the enemy first, since the shotgun user will usually hold a close angle. But in general though, it's best to use util or contain a shotgun player to be part of a map rather than engaging him. I'm sure y'all seen it. There's too many instances, for example, on Buying Hookah or U-Haul, where a shoddy player will decimate a team for too many rounds because the team thinks they can win that duel. Peeking tips and tricks. So many of y'all know this, but some of y'all might not. There is a small window when you're completely stationary and when you move a few steps where your agent will not make any sound or noise when you walk. This timing where you don't make any noise can be used in tandem with jiggle peeking, meaning that if you time it correctly and with enough practice, you can jiggle in and out of cover without making a sound. This is a really good tip in gaining info, but also most importantly, not giving your position away to the enemy. If they don't know you're there and have no info on your position, you can gain space for free. The silent jump peak. Again, this is very situational, but to silent jump peak, you want to hold crouch, jump, and before you land back on the ground, let go of crouch, and your jump won't make any noise. This type of jump is great for defensive positions where all you're doing is trying to get info without exposing yourself or giving your position away. A good place I use this in is on defense on Haven A default, where you can jump peek behind those default boxes to see if anyone is coming A long. Um, and definitely something you want to use situationally. Crosshair placement. Crosshair placement is having your crosshair aimed in such a way where it takes the least amount of time and effort to kill your opponents. Great crosshair placement means that if you're set up properly, you'll be able to hit the shot of someone peeking or swinging into you with one hand while you're on the other hand you're playing Pokemon Go or something. It should be minimal effort. Here are some methods for crosshair placements. I'll go into the next slides. Head level. So in Valorant, because the time to kill someone is so small, you want to aim for the head in generally most of the situations, so that is the quickest and best way to take an enemy out. If your crosshair is hovering the ground, then you will have a lot of mouse movement to get your crosshair back to head level when an enemy pops up. So keeping your crosshair at head level at all times means less movements with the mouse and a faster, more reliable way to get kills. A good way to practice this is to keep crosshair at head level in range, customs, and our death matches. Pre-aim. So pre-aim is when you align your crosshair at where you think a player is before you peek, so that when you swing, your crosshair is already set on them. Always pre-aim your crosshair when clearing angles, only exception would be off angles. Pre-aiming is the perfect embodiment of the phrase work smarter, not harder, and will definitely make getting kills a lot easier with minimal effort. You don't need flashy aim to be good at in Valorant, you just need to have a good foundation, and pre-aim is part of that. Slicing the pie. Slicing the pie is like the de facto method of clearing angles, and should be how you clear angles. It's moving around a corner that only exposes a small amount of you while you're clearing a whole map or something like this. The picture on the right kind of shows you like he's clearing just a chunk of the area at a time. And this is the method you want to use when clearing a map or in clutch situations. It's kind of hard to explain verbally, so I'm using this video. Let me see. It should explain slicing better with visuals. Yep. So that video definitely shows how to slice the pie, and I think it needs to be shown visually, so that's why I had it. So tracing the map. Tracing the map is when you take your crosshair and you trace along the walls and corners of a map, and you're ready to fire at the first possible sighting. Tracing is really useful in situations when there isn't enough time to jiggle peek or slice the pie on a map. Usually when the bomb is against you and you need to clear a map in seconds. I use this method a lot when bomb plant situations, when I know there's like multiple people on site. And you can combine tracing with other methods of peeking too as an arsenal to help you clear out a site. Crosshair placement tips and tricks. So these are some of the tips I use. Um, for my op shots, if I want to be sure that I am peeking correctly, I'll ping spots on the minimap before I peek to get a general idea of where to aim. It'll show like a little white dot on your HUD that shows you exactly where the angle is that you pinged, and all you need to do is swing on that white dot. Another tip that I need to do more, but I haven't, but I also just learned this recently, is to use the U to drop guns when switching guns. So a lot of us, and myself included, have a habit of switching guns out by looking down at the gun and then switching it that way. Um, when you use U, you can have your crosshair remain at the level that it is while also switching the gun too. And there's last tip is visual hints on the maps to give you clues for where to hold your crosshairs at. On this picture, for instance, you can see the visual clues itself. There's lines on doors that give you headshot angles, lines on crates that give you headshot angles, and various other stuff that are subtle, but this is the developer's way of showing you where to hold your crosshair right here. And you can use these markers as a way to pre-aim or have your aim crosshair at the right place. And now you're radiant. So with this guide and tips and tricks, you're on the way to being radiant or hard stuck, just like me. Um, and to conclude this guide, this is how you effectively peek and use crosshair placements. So let me know if you have any questions, or you can personally DM me. And I'm usually a night owl. I'm probably degenning on some game, but I am always available to answer any questions y'all might have. And that's it. So,
I have a couple questions, Boulder.
oh no, anyone but PG. What's good?
First off, do you drop guns with you?
With you?
You, see, I learned that through my research today. I was like, I think that's a good tidbit to add.
But you haven't bound to that?
No, no.
Is that actually just a part of the binds by default?
Honestly, I need to test that out. I might be bad advice there.
Misinformation.
Yeah, but everything else is solid though. I can attest.
Alright. Also, second question: how do I win DMs?
Oh, I have another seminar for that, but you turn your sound up really loud, and then they walk over to you, and then using my methods of crosshair placement, they walk into your crosshair, and that's how you win DMs.
Cause like usually, I'm trying to go around and pick fights, but I've also heard that some people will just stay in one spot, not
Oh
move at
yeah,
all.
couldn't be me though.
Yeah. Alright,
That's
well
true.
thanks. Yeah.
Well, thank you y'all for stopping by. That was my quick seminar. I hope y'all enjoyed it.
Good
But
job, Boulder.
Thanks, Boulder.
thank you.
I'm radiant
You're
now.
welcome.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Boulder. Great job.
Um, so